everyone. Welcome to today's lab. So today we are going to do a lab on connecting the firewall to production network. This is all about Palo Alto firewalls. So basically what we'll be covering on this particular lab is going to be on loading the baseline configuration, creating layer 3 interfaces, creating virtual router, segment your production network using security zones, test connectivity from firewall to host in each security zone, then create interface management profiles. So there's a lot that is going to be covered in this particular video. You don't want to miss out. So we're going to begin by logging onto the client, and I have 2 hours to finish this lab. I think that's way more than enough, but I'll do the best I can. So let's see. So first I'm going to log on to the firewall router. Let me reduce this a little bit. I'm not sure what it is called, so yeah, this should be okay. So the IP address, as you've seen in the topology, is 192.168.1.254. So you log onto the firewall by the web interface. If you are familiar with the command line as well, you can use the command line interface as well by clicking on the file main, using the commands, use SSH, all kinds of any way that you prefer to connect by. The easiest way is to just use the web interface. So go into the web interface and click on proceed. So I'm going to log in using the username and password that I have created for this firewall, which is just admin and so it's logging in. So our first objective is to load the lab that we're going to do, and this in this case is going to be lab number 4. So I'm going to load that first. Okay, so let's load the lab we're going to do. So go to devices. So in this particular instance, we just loading the lab, but this could also mean that we could create our own snapshots, which we can always go back and load back in time. So this is how cool this particular firewall is. So in this case, so I'm just going to go into the name configurations, and I'm going to say edu, and I'm going to bring up the labs. So I can choose lab number 4. That's all I care about, lab 4. And okay. So while it's loading, I can click over here on the tax. You see the tax over here, tax bar. It's going to tell you if it's loaded. So the loading is completed, as you can see. So once the load is complete, then I can commit the changes. So commit is going to save the configurations, for you. So I'm waiting for it to do that. So the first task on this lab is going to be creating layer 3 network interfaces. Creating layer 3 network interfaces. That's what we're going to do first. So waiting for it to complete. So as you see, it's still loading. %, 99%, so we're still waiting for it. Our first task is to create layer 3 network interfaces. So in this section, you will create layer 3 interfaces on the firewall that will provide basic network connectivity to your production networks. You have a network with users on 192.168.1.0 network. So in this case, let me show you this. So let's go to the topology. So this is our Palo Alto Firewall, as you can see. So we want to what? Create the following network interfaces. For example, the 192.168.1 network, and then the 192.168.50 network, then the 203.0.113.20 network. So these are all the different interfaces. We also have the management, all of those interfaces are there, okay? So, but this is the goal of the lab, to make sure that we connect, we create what? The network interface for the 192.168.1 network, then create the 15 network, and then the 203.0.113 networks on the firewall. Okay, so that's what we are going to do. This is our Palo Alto firewall. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the client. And then now that we've loaded the configuration, so the first thing I'm going to do is go to network. So we're going to do all the configurations under the network section. So we have dashboard, account, ACC, monitor, policy. This is where you create policies, objects, and then network and devices. So here we are under networks. So under network, we're going to go to what? Interfaces. You click on interfaces, you see. So you can see that all the interfaces are what? We have up to 9 interfaces. Ethernet 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, and up to 9. Okay, so you can see that at this moment none of them is of use. Like we're not using none of those interfaces at this moment. That's why you didn't see anything is green. The state, everything is just empty. IP addresses, none, everything. This is like fresh, you know, you just got it out of the box, and then you're going to do all the configurations on it. So in this case, we're going to go to the first interface, which is the Ethernet 1.1. Okay, Ethernet 1.1. So on this network interface, we're going to be configuring, we're going to call it second. Okay, we're going to call this interface the internet. That's going to be the one that's going to the internet. Okay, so it's possibly the interface that's going to have the 200 network. So let's go back to the topology, for example. So on Ethernet 1.1, we're going to configure the 203.0.11.20 network on it, because this is what goes to the internet. Okay, so as we go, I'll continue to go back and forth to show you which one we're configuring. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to go click on the interface. As you see, just click on the interface. Okay, and then from there, you're going to what? Give it like a name or like something to identify. The comment is kind of like a description. Okay, so I'm going to call it internet connection. Then from here, interface type. What kind of interface is this? We have different types of interface. We have the tap, the high availability, the what? Virtual wire, the layer 2, layer 3. Okay. For those of you, the difference between layer 2 and layer 3 is layer 2 switches are just like switches that forward packets. Okay. Layer 3 is means that they're going to perform what? Routing. Okay. So this is going to be what? A layer 3 interface. So click on layer 3 and just go ahead and then click on what? IPv4. Okay. So this way you're going to add the IP address. So you click on add over here, and then you're going to add the what? IP address. That 203.0.113.20/24. Okay, /24. So this is the network address that we're going to give it. Okay, the IP address. Okay, this is the IP address of the network. So the /24 means that this is taking the entire range. Okay, it's going to start from 203.0.113.0.20. No, sorry, .1 all the way to what? The 255. Okay, 254 assignable. Okay, but then 255 is the broadcast, and the 0 is the network. So in this case, this is all you have to do. So we've decided to give it what? At the 20. Okay, it doesn't have to be a .1 or .255. Any address within the range is usable. You can give it. Okay, so I'm giving it 20. That's what I prefer to give it. Okay, once I've done that, you just click on what? Okay, so the address has been assigned. So you've really assigned the interface an address and gave it like what kind of interface is it going to be. Okay, easy as that. And then from there we go on to the next one. 1.1/2. What is this interface going to be? This is going to be user network connection. So I am thinking this is this interface. So 192.168.1.1. So this is the interface going to the users, the inside. So the first one we created was the internet interface, which is this one. The second one is going to be what, the user side, this side. Okay. So I'm just waiting to come back. Okay. So now again, just indicate that this is what for the users network. So this is helpful because anybody that comes to manage the network file later on in the future, they will not, everything is already described. They don't have to struggle. They can just see, oh, this description is for the user network and this and that. So it's important to do that. Again, you choose the what, layer 3. This is also going to be a routing packet, so that's why it's a layer 3. Okay, so again, IPv4 address. And likewise, if you have an IPv6, you can do the same thing. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to give you the IP address, which is going to be 192.168.1.1/24. So this is going to be your default gateway address for the local users. Okay, 192.168.1.1. So after that, just click on OK. So you've created two. So you see, first internet, second user network. So the other one that we're going to create is going to be the third one. This is going to be for the extranet. So let's go back to the topology to have a look. So internet, internal users, and then what? DMZ, the extranet. Okay, DMZ, the extranet. Okay, so go back. So click on that 1/3 and then comment. This is going to be extranet servers connection. Okay, again, this is a layer 3. It's going to be doing packets again. Then go to what, IPv4, then add what, the IP address on the interface, and this is going to be 192.168.50. This is also going to be the default gateway from that particular network. Okay, /24. Once you're done, click on any space and click on OK, and boom, we've configured 3 interfaces. Okay, so this is all good. So the next thing we're going to do is create a virtual router. Okay, so in this section, you create a virtual router and connect your layer 3 interfaces to it. You will also define a default gateway for the virtual router itself. The firewall requires a virtual router to obtain routes for other subnets. Okay, so either using static routes that you manually define or through participation in layer 3 routing protocol that provide dynamic routes. The firewall has a predefined virtual router named default. Okay, so a virtual router is a separate routing instance that allows the firewall to route traffic from one network to another. Okay, through layer 3 interfaces. In this environment, we have 3 networks. That's going to be 192.168.1.0, 192.168.50, 203.1.1.0 /24. You will modify the default router. And add the firewall interfaces from each of these networks to the virtual router. Because we are using layer 3 interfaces, the firewall must have a way to route traffic from one network to another. This process is done with a virtual router. However, because each interface is in a different security zone, the security rules will prevent traffic in one network from going to another network through the firewall. So all of this gibberish, I don't even give a fuck about that stuff. Sorry for the cursing, but what I meant is I like to do it so you can see it. Okay, so let's do it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is, again, network, and then we're going to click on what, virtual routers. So we're going to create virtual routers. So from here, you're going to see you click on the default. So we're going to click on the default. So in here, we're going to call this we're going to give it a name. We're going to say this is called what? A lab dash VR. Okay. From there, then we're going to go to what? Add the interfaces. So add the interfaces. So we're going to select all the interfaces that we've created, which is this one, add again, 2, add again, 3. So these are the interfaces that we want to create the virtual routes for. Okay. So this step can also be completed via what? Ethernet network interface configuration window. So this is fine. We've already done that right here. Okay. So virtual router default. So we change the name to what? Our lab, in our case virtual router, and then just select the interface by clicking the add. Okay. Don't worry yet, we're going to see next. So the order in which you add these interfaces to the list is not important. Okay. You could start by adding Ethernet to 1, 3, or whichever one you prefer. Okay. Now we're going to go to a called static routes. Click on static routes. Okay. So first, router settings. Then second, static routes. Then from here, we're going to click on IPv4 and then add. Okay. So what is this going to be called? We're going to say this is called firewall default gateway. And what that means is that this route is saying, it's kind of like defining the routes for all traffic where they're supposed to be living. Okay. So interesting. So you're saying that, okay, firewall gateway, destination, all destinations. Okay, that's what this means. 0.0.0.0/0 means all destinations. Now the interface here means where they should pass through. It's kind of like, it's like Cisco, right? It's like you want to create a static default route for all your traffic. So meaning everything in your network, tell them where they should exit. If they're going to the internet, or like define for them where they have to go out to the internet. That's what this static route means. So we're saying that for destination anywhere in the internet, okay, exit through this interface 1.1. That's the interface that we had, the 203.0. So you can tell based on the IP address that this is a public IP address. So they should exit through that interface. Okay. So here, next hop IP address. We don't know the next hop IP address. Usually we just say, hey, exit that way. But in this case, they are telling us what the next hop IP address is. Okay. And they are saying that the next hop IP address is 203.0.113.1. In other words, we could have actually used so usually it's either the next hop IP address or the exit interface. Okay, each of them, any of them should work for you. Administrative distance and all of that, we don't have to bother about that. Once you're done with this, so this virtual route we created is just like a route to indicate that, hey, all packets that are going to the internet exit through this interface. That's what that means. So we just click on OK. So the static default route has been created. Okay, so this is what will allow you to be able to access the internet. So that means without this configuration, you will not be able to access the internet. So this is very important. So this entry is the default route for the firewall. Like all other network hosts, the firewall needs a default gateway to send traffic to unknown networks, and the firewall has local connection to 192. So okay, we already know the local connection, so it can forward packets to host on those networks directly. So what they are simply saying is that all the other networks, so for example, if I go back to this topology, let me click on this. So for example, this network, so 192.168.1.0 network, .15 network, and so all of these are what? Directly connected, which means that you don't need to define a route for you to be able to access any resources within those. Okay. However, let's say google.com and all of that, those are different networks, like unknown networks. So that's why you would have to define what the static route to exit to those, like those networks. Okay. So once that is done, We're going to click on OK, and that's it. So this is going to let you have what? Access to the internet. Okay. So now the next thing we need to do is at this moment is segment your production network using security zones. So we are going to create what we call security zones. So I hope these virtual routes now make sense. For example, we have to what? Refer to all the interfaces and say, hey, and create a path, a static route. Say, hey, all networks within these categories. If you want to go to the internet, this is the path. That's what the the firewall is defining. So we've done with that. Next thing we're going to do is create what we call security zones. So a security zone, a logical way to group physical and virtual interfaces on the firewall to control and log the traffic that traverses your network through the firewall. An interface of a firewall must be assigned to a security zone before the interface can process traffic. A zone can have multiple interfaces of the same type, okay, assigned to it, but an interface can belong to only one zone, okay. So with your network interface and virtual router in place, so now that we have all the network interfaces and our virtual routes in place, you can now create what? A security zone. You will create 3 security zones. So we're going to create 3 security zones. The first is going to be the internet. That's one, that's outside. The other is going to be what? Internal users, and the other is going to be what? The external, which is going to be your DMZ. So we go to zones. That's how you create security zone. Zones. And click on add. So under here, we're going to call this one what? The internet. Okay. So the internet, what kind of layer is this? So this is going to be what? Layer 3 routing. Okay. And then add the interface. Which interface is the internet? We know that this is the interface. So 111, that was the one with the 203 network. So once that is done, just click on OK. These are the only things you need to define, particularly with this particular so click on OK. It's hiding, but I clicked on it anyway. So the next one we're going to do is add another zone, and this will call what? The usernet. That means that's the local user, the address is 192.168.1.1, the 1.0 network. Okay, so this is going to be user. So these security zones help, especially with policy, like when you're creating policy, to help you to select, oh, where's the source, where's the destination, in that order. So it makes a lot more sense. So usernet, and then again the layer 3 we already know for routing, and we select it. This is going to be number 2 is that. Okay, and boom, click on OK. So somehow this is now, let me reduce this a little bit more so you can see. Oh, there you go. Okay, so now you can see fully. So so once we select that, just click on what? OK. Then finally we're going to create what? The extranet, or we call, yeah, the extranet. Extranet. So your DNZ area. Okay. Type is going to be layer 3. And you select the interface as well, and this is going to be this interface. And once you're done, you just click on OK, and we've created all our security zones. Easy as that. So that's how you create what? Security zones. And now now that we've created all the security zones, now we're going to commit what? The changes. The changes is going to be like, committing is like saving the changes. Okay. So the goal again, let's summarize before we say. First of all, we create the interfaces. 3 interfaces, one for the internet, the interface going to the internet, second interface, one going to what? The internal network, and this is going to the extranet. Okay. Now, once we've done with that, we created what we call virtual routes. Virtual routes is to define a route, one static route. Okay, just to define a static route to enable to tell the firewall that, hey, any traffic that is going to any unknown destination, exit through this interface. That's it. So once you've done with that, and then you have to create what security zones, which we'll later on use. This is help, especially when we're creating policies. You see why this is important. Okay, so I'm going to click on commit the changes and then just wait for it to finish. It didn't finish. Oh man, I don't know why I click on close, but I hope the changes have been applied. Okay, now that we've done with, let me see, save changes. Now that we've finished with all of these changes being committed, so the other thing we're going to do now is I'm going to go to my desktop. We need to test those interfaces. So we call it testing the connectivity of each zone. So I'm going to minimize this. Have this one called Romina over there on my desktop. So with this, the firewall I'm currently working on is firewall A, this one. So I'm going to click on that and double click on that to connect to it. Okay, so okay, so first I'm going to now do some pinging. So ping source 192.168. So in other words, let's say if you were this was your production environment, you could have just log onto any computer, ping your firewall, your gateways, the default gateways to see if you have access. Okay, so ping source 1.1 host 192.168.1.20. So I'm trying to ping. So okay, I'm pinging the default gateway for this particular host, and this particular host at this moment, let me see, hold on, actually CMD let me see if this will work. IP as you can see, IP address for this host that I'm working on is what 192.168.1.1. So this is what this saying. So you can see that I'm able to ping what the default gateway, which is 1.1. Okay, so I feel like it's kind of like a stimulating environment. Okay, that's what is happening right now. So the other one that I'm going to do is again from source from 50.1. I'm going to ping 50.1. So I'm stimulating that I'm in host 50. So there's another host called 50.120, 150. So I'm stimulating that I'm in 50.150 and I want to ping my default gateway, which is 50.1. And you see the ping is responding as well. So this means that all our interfaces are working. So again, I'm going to stimulate that I'm pinging 200 and let's say 200 203. This is our internet interface, 0.113.20. Okay, I'm pinging. I'm saying that I'm host. 1 second. They actually gave us another default gateway, which was like .1 or something like that. But anyway, let me use 8.8.8, like from Google, from the outside the internet. And you see the pings are responding. So this indicates that all our configurations are working correctly. Okay, all our configurations are working correctly. Perfect. So at this moment, I can exit out of Romina and I can go back to use a terminal emulator instead because I want to do some work over here. So first, we already know that this host is what 192.168.1.1. Okay, so I'm going to ping a default gateway. Ping 192.168.1.1. Okay, so this ping is not supposed to work. Okay. It's not supposed to work. Perhaps because ICMP is disabled, but let's look at what the reason is. Okay, so it's not working because we waited for some few minutes, nothing is happening. So I'm going to exit out. So now again, I'm trying to do like SSH into the router as well and see does it allow ICMP? Does it allow SSH through those interfaces? So that's the goal. So I'm going to do SSH admin at 192.168.1.1 and then enter, and you see SSH is also not allowed. So the router at this moment is not allowing none of those. So let's go back into the firewall and enable those interfaces so that they can be able to accept pings and all the stuff that we want. So by default, this is good, okay? But just in case you want to manage your router remotely and all of that stuff, so it's important to make those changes. So let's go into the router one more time. So at this moment, we're going to go back into network, and we're going to go into network profiles. Then under network profiles, we're going to interface management. Okay, we're going to go into interface management. So here we're going to add the interfaces that we want to manage. Okay, what do we want to add on these interface management? So let's see. We want to allow ping. So this is going to be called allow ping, and we're going to check the ping that we want to allow. Okay, so this is what the issue was. Okay, so allow that. But now once we've done that, then we can click on okay, what else do we want to allow? We can also do management. So allow management. Create another one called allow management. And here we're going to select ping. We're going to select SNMP, simple network management protocol, then response page and user ID. So these are additional things that we want to do. So in the interface management section, click on all of this. Okay, so HTTPS. Okay. Also, I need to allow accept HTTPS and SSH. Okay. Okay. So I create two. One allow ping and one for management. Okay. And then once you're done, then just click on OK. Now I'm going to go back into the interfaces. So first you come to network profiles, go to user interface management, create the services that you want to choose. Now this is important because you can allow you to apply to multiple interfaces and other things like that. So this is why this is really good. So it's kind of like select the services you want, allow it, then apply to whichever interface you want. So I'm going to go back to the interfaces as you see here. And now you can see before they were just things like now green. That means the link state is up. So first I'm going to click on the 1.1 interface. So over here, then I'm going to go into advanced. Second. Configuration. Where is it at? Network profiles. 1 second. Advanced, yes, advanced. So you click on advanced, okay, and then do you see over here under other info? Okay, so let me go back. So click on the interface. Once it opens, advanced, and then under other info, do you see where it says management profile? So this will allow you to select which management profile you want to apply on this. And you see we have two profiles. One is for allow management and allow ping. So in this case, we're going to choose just ping. So I click on okay. So this will allow, now before we couldn't ping, you see that when we ping it didn't work. So but this case, after we commit the changes, let me see first if it will work or not without a commit. So ping, So it's not going to work unless I commit the changes. So I'm going to commit the changes, okay, and then once the changes have been applied, this thing will start working. And then I'm going to go into the 1/2 network. 1/2 interface is the one that is for the internal network. Okay. Oh, I think I'm in the wrong interface, expecting the right result. So this allows ping requests from outside. So because the interface, the 1/1 Ethernet interface is for the outside network. So now the goal is from the internal IP address, as we've seen. This network internal is this is an internal address 192.1.1. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into this interface and apply the management to it. So we're going to go into that and advanced. Then what? Under other profiles, click on what? Under the management profile in other info, click on that and then select what? Allow management and click on OK and then yes. And then let's see. Now, once that changes is made, and I'm going to click on what? Commit changes, and then we're going to have the things working. I'm going to wait for it to ping before I move on. It's going to work. Once the changes is applied, it's going to work. So let's watch the changes apply. So changes is committing on this side. Let me bring out the thing so that you can be watching. So once the changes have been applied, you want to see that ping will start working. So as you see, so once even the change just reached 99%, immediately the ping started working. So this is how you do it. So the next thing that we're going to do on layer 3, we're going to do allow management on that as well. So on the third interface, which is the DMZ, so you want to be able to manage the DMZ as well remotely. So that's another thing we need to work on. So advanced, and then from here you select the word allow management on that as well. And now this should allow you to also be able to SSH into the firewall as well. So basically this is how this is done. So once all of this is done, you just click on what? Commit changes one more time, and then the lab will be complete. We're gonna test them. Okay, first we're gonna ping. The ping is already working. We just have to do what? SSH, and then see if it works or not. And once the SSH works, boom, everything is good. So now let's try one more time for SSH. And you can see it's gonna immediately it's asking for a password. And then let's say I put in the password. Then logged in. Okay. There you go. So this is logged in. So show. Okay, what can I show? So let's say let me go back up. Show admin, show. So all of this. So just question mark. Show question mark will give you the idea to say, okay, what can you show? So in this case, let's say version. Okay. Show version. Show version. So we don't have, I'm not seeing like version, like it's not like Cisco, so this is different. So let's say source system. Okay, show system. Okay, maybe there's still more to do. So system what? Okay, so you need to show system settings, system start, system boot. So you can show it. So system info. Sorry, info is that. And you see, so now it's giving us all the details of this firewall, UID, all kinds of information about this firewall. So any information you need about it, it has all of that information available for you. Okay, so that means we've come to the end of what? Our lab session. So let me recap on what we've captured on this video. So actually this lab was like 2 hours on some few minutes, but it's like we've been able to use, how many minutes do we spend on this? Let's see, what did this say? So we spent like like 40 minutes. So we use 40 minutes to do this. Thank you, Juan Lopez. Um, so we've come to the end of the lab. So my goal right now is to go through the lab objectives to make sure that we covered everything that was supposed to be covered. So the objectives for this lab was to load the baseline configuration, which we did, create a layer 3 interface, which we did, create a virtual router, which is good. We did all of that. And then segment our production network using security zones. We've created zones, this some basic stuff, like extranet, intranet, and that stuff. You get to see how important this is when we start doing what? The policies, so you're going to see how important this is. So, and then testing connectivity, and we've seen how that works. We've also created what? Management profiles, and which we did. That's the last thing we did, where we just say, okay, add, then choose whatever services you want to run, then accept, telnet, whatever. And actually you can even synchronize it to like to what specific IP addresses are allowed or exempt and all of that. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll possibly see you in the next video. So let me save the configuration, close. So log out of the firewall and X out, and yeah, I should make the next video right now. Let me see how many minutes I have, but I'm going to end this one for now.